RC with Adam is brought to you in part by these super awesome people. Hey everybody, welcome back to RC with Adam. My name is Adam. So glad you could be back here with me today. Hey Tim, how's it going? Glad to have you with me. So what we're looking at today is we have the FlySky, two FlySky radios. We have the i6X and the i6S here in the middle, and then over here we have the TX, the Radio Master.
Oh, whoopsies. Hey, Adam from the future here. In this video, I may call this radio the Radio Master, but it's actually the Radio King brand. Very similar names, so please excuse me if you hear me say Radio Master. I mean Radio King. Thank you, and let's continue.
TX18S. Now I'm doing this video as mainly just a size comparison for these radios because there are a lot of reviews on this radio already and they're much more in-depth, and honestly the people are probably more qualified to review this radio. So basically, I mean, the short and simple is that this radio, I think it costs right now around $120, and it is definitely more feature rich, and I would say overall a better radio than these two FlySky radios. So just in case you want like the short version of the overall review. By the way, I actually have the TX18S here because I'm actually setting this up with a quadcopter for a customer. I do that. I do help people get their quads set up or repaired in case you're having problems and the manufacturer warranty is not helping you, or maybe you're just stuck or you're frustrated. I can help you with that. So check the description below for more information or send me an email, rcwithadam@gmail.com, and I can help you get your drone fixed and back up in the air. But today we're going to actually look at the actual physical characteristics of this thing, because basically the long and short of it is this radio is huge compared to these FlySky radios. So, but I want to go over that in a little bit more detail so that way you have some information on that if you are, maybe you have a FlySky radio and you're thinking about going to the TX18S. And of course this, I believe this is the same size as the Radio Master TX16 or TX16S. Honestly, it's so confusing. All the names and the clones and stuff, they're so similar. But anyway, let's get started here. So basically, first of all, physically, you have a ton more switches. So you have a lot of switches going on here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 actual switches. We got 2 sliders. One on each side. We've got 2 knobs. We've got these crow's feet buttons. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on here. And it's really quite darn large. In the back, we do have a spot for a transmitter module. And then we have our battery compartment right here. We have these big grips, really big grips. I'm not sure if those are removable. You could get rid of the overmolding, but the actual plastic itself in there is just going to be, it's actually molded in, as you can see right there. So it's large, and if you're not used to a large radio or you have smaller hands, you might not like this, to be honest with you. But so let's take a look at some of these other radios. So we have the FlySky i6X. I actually really like this one because it is so slim. Now it is a bit wider than for example the i6S model, but as far as switches, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 switches and 2 little dials right here. So very simple. Again, this is like a budget, definitely a budget radio. I think now you can get them for like $45 with the transmitter. I still think this is the best budget transmitter that you can get. You're not going to have multi-protocol and that kind of thing, but I mean, for $45 with the receiver, I think that's as good as it gets for that price. The other thing I really like about this is it's just so slim. So let's take a look at the i6X versus the TX18S. Oh, there's so many letters. So you can see there, just crazy thickness difference. By the way, I do have a battery mod that I did here. So I do have a little external battery pack, but if we just kind of hold these radios side or back to back, I mean, my goodness, look how thick the Radio Master is on the right. So big difference there. And that's going to matter, again, with how large your hands are, how you hold the radio. But the other thing, and actually let's compare, before we move on, let's compare the S model. So the S, the FlySky i6S, is a little bit thicker than the X model, but you can see here, still quite a bit thinner, especially towards the bottom of the Radio Master. We have these like little, I guess they're sort of supports so that you can hold the radio upright, but they do definitely increase the width and sort of the shape of the radio for sure. Also, we do have this handlebar thing right here, and this, I believe this is removable. I'm not sure, I haven't checked, but I believe that is removable. So that is kind of nice. You could sort of streamline it a little bit. On the S model here, this is removable as well, but it actually doesn't stick up as much, this handle right here. So that is nice. And then on the X model, it is molded in place, and the receiver is actually, the receiver antenna, or I'm sorry, transmitter antenna is actually in the handle part right here. So definitely, if you do want to cut off the handle, make sure that you take the radio apart and remove the antenna, and then you could make a modification and cut off this handle if you want to, and then put the antenna somewhere else. But obviously that's going to be a little bit more involved type of modification. But one of the big things is just the overall weight. So if I get a scale here, the TX18S weighs 791 grams, or 1 pound 11.9, we'll call it 12 ounces. And I believe this is with the stock battery. And the S model, the i6S, weighs 1 pound 3 ounces, or 544 grams. And the X model weighs 473 grams, or 1 pound and pretty well 0.6 ounces, so just about 1 pound even. So this guy right here, even with this battery mod that I did, which this actually is probably lighter than having 4 AA's in there, that is the lightest one here. So definitely weight might be a consideration if you plan on like having to carry this a lot. That could be something to think about. Another thing worth noting on the Radio Master is the antenna is removable, so you can take out the antenna, at least for the built-in module. So you can remove the antenna. That's nice and probably kind of necessary for transport. So you have to take the antenna off, put it back on. Otherwise, it definitely adds like at least 1.5 inches in terms of sort of the length or vertically, however you want to look at it, of the actual radio. The i6S is actually really nice in that regard, in that there is nothing really sticking out the top. Again, just for the record, the i6S, I have been using this quite a bit and it works pretty well, but the main limiting factor on this radio is you can only have 5 models, at least right now, unless they do like a firmware update or something. But yeah, so that's not great as like if it was your only radio, I would say get the i6X, if you want like a budget type of radio. So just throwing that out there. Another factor that may be important to you is the distance between the actual sticks. So on the Radio Master, from stick to stick, it is right about 4 inches or 10 millimeters. On the FlySky i6S, it is right about 3.5 or 9 millimeters. And on the X model, the i6X, 4.25 inches, or very close to 11 millimeters. So it's actually quite wide on this one. But another factor is going to be the distance from the stick to the side of the transmitter. So in this case, 35 millimeters, or about 1 3/8 inches. On the S model, we have about 1 3/4 inches, or 45 millimeters. 1 5/8 inches or right about 40 millimeters. Again, just kind of approximating here. So that could make a difference in terms of kind of how far your fingers have to reach. Now I will say, when I hold the radio, maybe I'm weird, I don't know, you let me know in the comments how you hold your radio, but I usually now I kind of pinch. It's sort of a modified pinching, so I'll do kind of with the thumb and then kind of assist with the first finger. In this radio, I haven't really flown it much. What I would probably do is grip it so that, like, if this was my arming switch, which is kind of natural for me to have the arming switch right up here at the top left, I would probably grip it like this. So I would probably arm it, and then I'd have my middle finger ready to disarm. The weird thing is, in the back, my pinkies are kind of like that. So most of what I have supporting the radio is going to be on my pinkies. And with this particular radio, it's kind of, it's heavier and it's wider, so my fingers really get kind of spread out. I mean, it feels uncomfortable to me right now, but again, I haven't gotten to use this radio and get used to it. On the i6S, on the other hand, I find this actually very comfortable because I can easily I can hold the radio, it's lighter. I can hold it probably just like this, so I get more of my third finger kind of to support the back of the radio and my pinkies as well. Again, this is like if you're actually you have to hold the radio, so if it's not on a lanyard or in your lap or something like that. So this is kind of how I would hold the radio, and I'd have my middle finger up here ready to disarm, just like that. So I find that to be pretty darn comfortable. The i6X, very similar. Honestly, it's a little bit more blocky, kind of edgy, so it's kind of maybe not as comfortable. It is thinner, so it's a little bit less of a stretch for my fingers, for my hands. Now, as far as the actual gimbals themselves, or the sticks, I will say they're smooth on the TX18S. But they are, well, to me they feel unnatural, but I might be one of those weirdos that likes loose gimbals or loose sticks, possibly just because I've grown accustomed to the lower quality of the budget FlySky radios, so that may not be a very common experience, but I will say that the throttle feels pretty smooth. There's definitely, when this is what kind of throws me off, is they're very, I would say, authoritative springs in here. So let me be quiet, and I think you can actually hear the springs quite a bit. Yeah, so you can hear that. So basically, it feels to me like there's just kind of too much spring tension. Kind of feels like there's a lot to overcome. But again, I have not actually flown much or at all really with this thing to be able to, to give you information about whether these are good gimbals. I'm just letting you know how it feels for me compared to something like the FlySky i6S, which I actually like quite a bit. I've gotten used to these gimbals. Again, I'm not saying that they're great quality or anything. The throttle is definitely looser, which I kind of like that. Or at least I've gotten used to flying like that. But it's definitely not as smooth. There's a little bit of grit in there, a little bit of maybe some, sort of some bumpiness, if you will. But the sticks here, I'm going to be quiet and see if you can hear the difference. And the i6X, these particular gimbals, actually, this is actually my very first radio, and so these are very old and they've been kind of trashed around, and they probably got a lot of dust in there and need to be serviced. So these ones are definitely not as smooth, but they are very loose, which I guess that could be good or bad depending on how you like that. The throttle's definitely not as smooth, but still, I feel like I can fly these pretty much just fine. So anywho, this is just to let you know that you don't necessarily have to have the latest and greatest, most amazing gimbals to be good, and get better at flying around and have fun, especially having fun. You don't need great gimbals to have fun when you're flying around, just so you know. Well, folks, I hope that was helpful for you. Thanks for watching. If you have comments about this or questions about these radios, leave them in the comments below, and maybe I or someone else will be able to help you. Also, for the FlySky radios, I have a whole playlist on all kinds of stuff for FlySky, tutorials and mods and all kinds of stuff. So if you're interested in FlySky radios, definitely go check that out. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you again very soon.